Hello students, today we are going to study a poem over Casuarina tree by Toru Dutt. Toru Dutt was an Indian poet who wrote in French and English. She was born in Calcutta in a respectable Bengali family. Toru Dutt's father Govind Chandra Dutt was a linguist. Toru Dutt was the youngest child after sister Aru and brother Abju. Toru Dutt received her education in France and England. She was greatly inspired by the English Romantic poets. Toru Dutt returned to India in the early 1870 and took to learning Sanskrit. Loss of her brother Abju in 1865 and sister Aru in 1874 plunged her into poetic production. She earned fame in a very short span of time. Her poetry comprises A Sheaf Gleaned in French Fields, published in 1876. It consists of her translations into English of French poetry. Her two novels, The Unfinished Bianca or The Young Spanish Maiden, written in English, and Les Journaux de Mademoiselle d'Arvers, written in French, were not set in India. Her famous work, Ancient Ballads and Legends of Hindustan, which was published posthumously in 1882, compiles her translations and adaptations from Sanskrit literature. Our Casuarina Tree was published in Ancient Ballads and Legends of Hindustan. Theme of the poem: Our Casuarina Tree is a poem published in Ancient Ballads and Legends of Hindustan by Toru Dutt, an Indian poet. In this poem, Toru Dutt celebrates the majesty and splendor of the Casuarina tree that she used to see by her window, and remembers her happy childhood days spent under it, and revives her memories with her beloved siblings Aru and Abju. Our Casuarina Tree still remains one of the most popular poems in modern Indian literature. Before going to the poem, it is necessary to have some clues that will help you in understanding the poem. Here, look at the picture of the Casuarina tree, the creeper climbing on the tree, and crimson colored flowers, baboon, branches, bird and bee, casement, water lilies, cows, kokilas, etc. These clues will help you in understanding the poem. The poem comprises 5 stanzas. The first stanza describes the structure of the Casuarina tree. Text of the poem, first stanza: like a huge python winding round and round, the rugged trunk indented with scars, up to its very summit near the stars, a creeper climbs, in whose embraces bound no other tree could live, but gallantly the giant wears the scarf, and flowers are hung in crimson clusters all the boughs among, whereon all day are gathered bird and bee, and often at nights the garden overflows with one sweet song that seems to have no close, sung darkling from over our tree while men repose. The first stanza describes the structure of the tree. The poet says that a creeper wrapped the tree under its hold like a huge python, and the tree is wounded by the tight and strong hold of the creeper. The creeper left deep scars on the rough trunk of the tree. The poet exaggerates here in the third line and says that it appears that is going to touch the sky or the stars up to its very summit near the stars. She uses exaggeration here. Further, she appreciates the gallantry and bravery of the casuarina tree and says that it stands against the creeper. No other tree could live in the hold of creeper, but casuarina tree stands gallantly or bravely against it. Here the use of simile is remarkable. The creeper is compared to the Hughes python. Further, the poet imparts human qualities to the tree and says that the tree, like a giant, wears the scarf or garland that is made up of crimson or red colored flowers that are grown on the boughs that are grown on the creeper. And these flowers are so charming and attractive that it intensifies the beauty of the tree, that it attracted different types of birds and bees that gathered all the day on the tree. And further, the poet says that often at nights the garden echoes with the sweet melodious song of the nightingale. This song, it appears that it is everlasting. Here the figure of speech personification is remarkable. The tree is imparted with human qualities. It wears a scarf like a human being wears a scarf or garland. The second stanza describes the Toru-Dutt's own impression of the tree. Text of the second stanza: when first my casement is wide open thrown at dawn, my eyes delighted on its rest, sometimes and most in winter on its crest. A grey baboon sits statue-like alone, watching the sun rise, while on the lower boughs his puny offsprings leap about and play. And far and near kokilas hail the day, and to their pastures wend over sleepy cows. And in the shadow on the broad tank cast by the hoar tree so beautiful and vast, the water lilies spring like snow unmashed. The second stanza describes the Toru-Dutt's own impression of the tree. She says that when she opens her window at dawn, she is delighted to see the beauty of the casuarina tree, and further says that sometimes and mostly in winter A grey baboon is seen sitting like a statue, a motionless statue, watching sunrise or enjoying sunrise with his offsprings who are playing and leaping on the lower boughs of the tree. Here again, the figure of speech simile is used. A grey baboon or monkey is compared to a motionless statue. Again, the poet reveals the beauty of the nature and says that kokilas welcome or hail the day, and sleepy cows are going to their pastures for grazing, and the shadow of the tree fall on the water tank and the water tank, and it provides refuge to the lilies and the sleepy cows. Here again the use of simile is remarkable. Water lilies are compared to snow. Third stanza reveals the deep nostalgia of Toru Dutt, but not because of its magnificence. Dear is the casuarina to my soul. Beneath it we have played, though years may roll. O sweet companions, loved with love intense, for your sakes shall the tree be ever dear. Blent with your images, it shall arise in memory, till the hot tears blind mine eyes. What is the dirge like murmur that I hear, like the sea breaking on a shingle beach? It is the tree's lament, an airy speech that haply to the unknown land may reach. The third stanza reveals the nostalgia of the Toru Dutt. She says that the casuarina tree is not dear to her soul and heart due to its majesty or magnificence or splendor. It is dear to her because she used to play she used to play under it with her brother and sister Aru and Abju, and it reminds her of her happy childhood days. It reminds her of her sweet companions, her brother and sister who are dead now. She says that the tree will remains always dear to her because it reminds her of her happy childhood. She again says that the image of the tree appears to her eyes and it brings tears in her eyes. She says that it seems to her that the tree is lamenting or mourning the death of her brother and sister, and its lamentation and wail she can hear at the distant land of France and Italy where she is living. Here simile is again used. Like, what is that dirge like murmur that I hear, like the sea breaking on a shingle beach? In this line simile is used. Fourth stanza, unknown yet well known to the eye of faith, Oh, I have heard that wail far, far away, in distant lands by many a sheltered bay. When slumbered in his cave, the water wrath and the waves gentle kissed the classic shore of France or Italy beneath the moon. When earth lay tranced in a dreamless swoon, and every time the music rose, before mine inner vision rose a form sublime, thy form, O tree, as in my happy prime, I saw thee in my own loved native clime. Again she repeats that she can hear the lamentation or wail of the tree. The tree is lamenting the death of her brother and sister, and she can hear this lamentation at distant land of France or Italy. The sea waves, the music of sea waves reminds her that the tree is lamenting the death of her brother and sister. The form or image of the tree reminds her of her happy childhood or her joyous childhood. The image of the tree evokes his native homeland, that is India or Hindustan. Final stanza, fifth stanza. Therefore I fain would consecrate a lay unto thy honored tree, beloved of those who now in blessed sleep for aye repose. Dearer than life to me, alas, were they. Mayst thou be numbered when my days are done with deathless trees like those in Borrowdale, under whose awful branches lingered pale fear, trembling hope, and death, the skeleton, and time, the shadow. And though weak the verse that would thy beauty feign, O fain rehearse, may love defend thee from oblivion's curse. In the last stanza, the poet wants to immortalize the tree. She says that she would like to compose a sacred verse to immortalize the tree because it cherishes the memory of her brother and sister who are dead now. She says that she wants to immortalize the tree like Wordsworth immortalizes yew tree in Borrowdale. She further says that she wants to spare the casuarina tree from oblivion's curse, from the curse of being forgotten. Different types of figures of speech are used in this poem. I have enlisted them. Like a huge python simile compares the creeper to a huge dangerous python. The giant wears the scarf metaphor compares the huge tree to a giant. A grey baboon sits statue-like simile compares the unmoving baboon to a statue. Like snow unmatched simile compares the whiteness of the water lilies to snow. Thy form, O tree, personification. The poet begins to personify the tree, giving it human characteristics by addressing it as thy and by capitalizing tree. Like those in Borrowdale, Allusion. The poet alludes to the yew trees that William Wordsworth wrote about and therefore immortalized. Even if the aforementioned yew trees were to die, they would live on as anyone who read his poems would be able to see them. Fear, trembling, hope, shadow, illusion, personification. This line is taken directly from Wordsworth's poem. In it, fear, hope, death, and time are personified. Thanks a lot.